Szanowni Państwo, witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie na drugiej już dziś
Ladies
konferencji
and gentlemen,
prasowej
welcome
poświęconej
at
wyborom
the second
samorządowym.
press conference
Tematem
today
obecnej
devoted
konferencji
to
jest
the
frekwencja
local government
wyborcza
elections.
i przebieg
The topic of
głosowania.
this
Są z nami
conference is the
przewodniczący Państwowej
turnout
Komisji
and the
Wyborczej, pan
course of
sędzia
voting.
Wojciech
With us we
Hermeliński,
have the head of the
członek
commission,
Państwowej
Judge
Komisji
Hermeliński,
Wyborczej, pan sędzia Wiesław Buś,
member of
oraz
the
sekretarz
commission,
Państwowej
Judge
Komisji Wyborczej,
Bush,
jednocześnie szef Krajowego
and
Biura
Secretary
Wyborczego, pani
of
Magdalena
the National
Pietrzak.
Commission and
Bardzo
head
proszę,
of the
pani
National Election
przewodnicząca, zabranie
Bureau,
głosu.
Madam Pietrzak. Over to you, sir. Now
Now
I will hand over to Judge Bush. He will give you more information about any incidents that might have occurred in relation to violation of election silence and other incidents related to that. In comparison with the last information that we presented to you, at 10 a.m. the number of incidents that may be related to elections grew to 416. However, we should not pay too much attention to that number, because as I have already said, all these incidents are just incidents that are reported to the police. They are various incidents and the police investigates them in the broader context of the elections that are being held today. Out of that, 13 incidents were preliminarily qualified as crimes. Let me, however, remark once again that the decision whether these are crimes or not will be in the final run taken based on the preliminary investigation, and the decision will be taken by the court. Out of the number of incidents that I mentioned, 238 were related to behaviors that might be qualified as offences under the Code of Offences. Most frequently, these related to activities entailing destruction or removal of posters that had been placed in various places before. When it comes to offences related to behaviours stipulated in the Electoral Code, the police has registered 178 cases of such behaviours. Most related to canvassing, but as I have already remarked, these are preliminary data. The effect of police work may differ in each case. Be that an offence or a crime, these are just preliminary data. When it comes to incidents that are noteworthy, I would like to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that as of now, 3 people have been apprehended, but these apprehensions are related to behaviours such as taking the ballot papers out of the polling station, destroying the ballot papers, or using words that are commonly found to be abusive in the polling station, which caused a disruption of the public order. The actions also included destruction of posters. 3 people, as I said, were apprehended, most likely in order to explain the motives and why the thing happened. All these incidents, in our opinion, do not impact the course of elections. Thank you very much. Let me read out to you the announcement of the National Electoral Commission from today on the number of people included in the lists of voters and the number of voters to whom ballot papers were issued until noon in the elections to municipality councils, district councils and provincial assemblies and the elections for reeves, mayors and presidents of cities scheduled for the 21st of October 2018. Collective information. The National Electoral Commission, based on data received from 25,397 regional commissions, out of the total number of 25,417 commissions, informs you that in the elections to municipality councils as of noon on the 21st of October 2018, the number of people included on the lists of voters in the regions from which we obtained data was 29,935,205 people. Ballot papers were issued to 4,677,037 people, which accounts for 15.62% of the total number of voters entitled to participate in these elections. Now let me first provide you aggregate information per province. I will read it out to you. Dolnośląskie, Lower Silesian 13.24, Kujawian-Pomeranian 15.38, Lubelskie 16.9, Lubuskie 13.46, Łódź 15.78, Lesser Poland 17.27, Mazowian 16.86, Opole 13.84, Subcarpathian 17.18, Podlasie 18.43, Pomeranian 15.28, Silesian 14.32, Świętokrzyskie 16, Warmia-Mazurian 16.81, Greater Poland 14.41, Western Pomeranian 14.42. And Madam Minister will now kindly read out to you the data related to cities. Aggregate information for selected cities. Białystok 16.25, Bydgoszcz 14.97, Gdańsk 13.08, Gorzów Wielkopolski 12.88, Katowice 12.93, Kielce 14.64, Kraków 14.60, Lublin 16.21, Łódź 15.89, Olsztyn 16.1, Opole 14.03, Poznań 13.98, Rzeszów 15.75, Szczecin 14.61, Torun 15.33, Warsaw 17.01, and that's the highest turnout. Wrocław 12.71 and Zielona Góra 16.09. As regards the place where the turnout was the highest, this was Nowy Dwór municipality, Sokulski district with 34.52%. For the sake of comparison, I can only tell you that in the local government elections 4 years ago in 2014, with the caveat that the conferences were scheduled at different times, at noon we were at 14.59%. That was a turnout countrywide. 5 p.m. 39.28 and final 47.21. In 2010, at 10 it was much lower, which is understandable. It was 5.29. At 3 p.m. it was 27.55. And the final one was 47.32. During the presentations of the members of the National Electoral Commission, you had a chance to see the turnout data on the screen. The next conference was scheduled at 6:30 p.m. Then we will provide you with more turnout data. And now we have time for 3 questions. Natalia Rubinska, TVN24. What about the incident in 2 municipalities in Becher and What about the people who wanted to add their names to the list of candidates via the electronic system? We have plenty of information about such issues from also that the people were not allowed to cast their votes. When it comes to Bircza, as we have assumed, the head of the commission revoked the two decisions, the two resolutions related to election silence. As regards the problems with people who wanted to add their names to the lists of voters and did not find their names on the list of voters today, indeed, this pertained to people who tried to submit their requests via EPUAP. Well, it's hard to say what happened. The municipality offices are responsible for this situation. They are obliged to keep the lists of voters. We may presume that maybe the requests were sent too late, and bearing in mind that the office needs 3 days for that, maybe it was simply too short a time. Maybe the cases were dubious, maybe the decisions were sent via regular mail and these were negative decisions. It's hard to generalize, yet it surely is justified. One further point, maybe the requests were incomplete. We have informed you in advance that very often documents need to be complemented, providing information that the person who is requesting for his or her name to be added to the list of voters in that specific place. So in other words, you needed to provide relevant documentation, contracts, bills, etc. Maybe that was not submitted, and that's why the decision was negative. As my full speaker mentioned, maybe it was about time, maybe the request was submitted too late. Magdalena Wierzchowska, TVP Info. A question related to Mikołów municipality. We hear that the numbers of lists of candidates were mistaken there. Did you get information as well? And therefore the question, what does the printing procedure look like and what to do about that? Well, indeed, the situation there is as following. The number of one of the lists is wrong. Right now, we actually don't have much to do. We cannot intervene. If, because of that reason, the voters will claim and object, it will be for the court to decide. Sometimes the National Electoral Commission or the head of the commission cannot intervene if something is happening during the voting. That's the case that you mentioned. Right now we cannot change it, we cannot reprint the ballot papers. Michał Dobrołowicz, Radio Z, Radio RMF, to be specific. Good afternoon. Let me return to the people who leave polling stations and cannot vote in Warsaw. What we hear is that the people who added their names via the set internet portal were not allowed technically, for instance, to accompany such a request with their contract via the internet portal, because that was not feasible physically. And do you know how big the phenomenon is? Well, we don't have any information about the scale of the problem. Keeping the register of voters is the responsibility of reeves, mayors and presidents of cities. What you have mentioned, sir, the fact that through the said internet portal you could only submit your request, and, as my full speaker mentioned, to speed up the procedure, it was possible to submit the evidence confirming the place of residence of a given person. It was advisable to do it in a traditional way that would help the reeve or the mayor to verify the place of residence more quickly. If that was not the case, the decision normally is negative. Because, you know, we need certainty about the place of residence. That's why we were always emphasizing that it would be good to do it well in advance, because it turned out that we had many requests. In Warsaw we had queues, and really if somebody brought the confirming documents in person, it was much easier. If you only submitted the request that did not complement it with necessary evidence confirming your place of stay or place of residence, then you should have expected a negative decision, or maybe the office did not have enough time even to handle your case. Katarzyna Pessa, Polsat. Good afternoon. What about yesterday's action of citizens of the Republic of Poland named Constitution on the Palace of Culture? Could that be a violation of the election silence? And this question goes to the head of the Commission. I already spoke about it. The provisions of law clearly say what canvassing is. Canvassing during election silence, and according to Article 105, canvassing means encouraging people to vote in a specific manner or for a specific candidate. Of course, this may entail not only verbal message but also symbols or images, but there has to be a clear correlation between what is being displayed on the Palace of Science and Culture or what is being presented in some other manner and the election day. In my opinion, it's hard to have any positive or negative connotations with the word constitution, and I don't think that the word itself, which is all in all neutral and very positive, that it could be the basis for deeming the case to be a violation of election silence. But, like everywhere, common sense is advised. Ewa Stankiewicz, Republika TV. Good afternoon. I wanted to ask you about a basic tool for controlling the honesty of election scans of the protocols. You are obliged to place them in the internet. When and under what address will they be available? Because they will prove the results of elections in individual constituencies. The law says that these scans should be made available immediately. The election verification movement would like to know that immediately doesn't mean 2 weeks or some distant time that will prevent the participants of the movement from objecting to the court. And final question, in your letter you admitted that this obligation stems clearly from the Electoral Code and that before the elections the Commission would agree on the way this obligation would be fulfilled. Therefore, my question, how are you going to fulfill this obligation, what was agreed, and when will the scans of protocols be made available? Well, we have agreed, as the Electoral Code obliges us to put the protocols on the website of the National Electoral Commission. Thus, it is not possible to do it via offices. The offices cannot have access to our internet website. Hence, the only possibility for the protocols to be made available is, and that's our decision, the following: the delegation offices will do it on our website. When the delegation offices have the originals of protocols, that's what we care a lot about. These have to be originals, not copies. Once the originals are available, they will be scanned and placed on our website. When will that happen? Well, as soon as the originals are available and when they are verified, so that they can be the basis for defining the results of elections. You should know that when employees of a delegation office work on determining the results of the elections, they cannot do the scanning at the same time. Once they complete their basic tasks, they will start scanning, and as soon as possible, the scans will be made available. When will that happen? Well, it all is related to the time when we will have the results of elections. It's just like we are not certain about the time when we are going to publish the results of the elections. That's the main point. When we are done with all the procedures related to verification of the correct preparation of protocols, then we will continue with scanning. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attention. The next press conference will take place at 6:30 p.m. and then we will provide you with most current data about the turnout as of 5 p.m. Thank you very much for your attention.